sticklers like that. They wanted their 2 squares and a clean fishbowl. Other than that, they were dream roommates. They were quiet, they never had a bad day, and when he needed a listening ear, they were there. As a reward for their patience, he pinched off some fish food, sprinkled it on top of the water, and as they greedily attacked the white flakes, he went back to the problem of his sister. The first thing he did was try her cell phone. No answer. He considered calling her house or his brother-in-law's cell, but if Allie hadn't worked up the nerve to tell Keith yet, that could be problematic. The message was less than half an hour old, which was about right, because his cell had fallen out of his pocket and gotten crushed in the surge to subdue the hostage-taker about an hour ago. A night owl, Allie never went to bed before 1 at the earliest, which meant she was almost certainly still up, somewhere, doing something. The possibility sent a shiver down his spine. Shit. "You are a pain in my ass," he said to the absent Allie, and turned on his heel, heading back out of the house and getting into his car. He would drive to her house in Arlington, some 15 minutes away, and if she hadn't yet broken the bad news to Keith, he would stand by her while she did. If she had, if Keith was as livid as he was pretty sure Keith was going to be, he would stand by her through that too. Whatever it took. She was his sister. Blood's thicker than water. He could almost hear his mother saying it as she stood swaying from too much booze in the doorway of one of the succession of trailers that had been their home when he and Allie were growing up. Usually when she said it, she was sending him out after Allie, his beautiful, unstable, 4 years older sister, whose own weakness for all kinds of chemical highs had manifested itself as early as middle school. He had been the stable one of the trio, the one who took a good hard look at his hardscrabble life and vowed to do better, to circumvent an apparent family weakness for drugs and alcohol by not drinking, not getting high, not doing anything but working really hard, first for grades and later for money, so they could all have a better life. Unfortunately, his mother died while he was in college. But when he graduated, he kept his promise to himself. He took Allie, who'd already been through 1 husband, away from the squalid Georgia town in which they'd grown up, and moved her with him to Virginia, where he was just starting his career with the FBI. For a while, things had been good for both of them. Buoyed by this opportunity for a new start, Allie had gotten a job and, as far as Nick knew anyway, stayed clean. The thing about Allie was, when she wasn't high, she was a joy to be around, with a bright, effervescent personality that drew people to her like metal shavings to a magnet. She was also beautiful, a tall, slender, blue-eyed blonde with the delicate, elegant features of a model. It was through Nick that Allie had met Keith, a fellow agent some years above Nick in the bureau hierarchy. Nick had really hoped that their romance would be the saving of her, that because of her love for Keith, she would be able to leave her weaknesses behind. To his everlasting shame, he hadn't told Keith a word about her problems. How could he? She was his sister. That was some 15 years ago. Keith was family now, and to his credit had never once said to Nick, "Why didn't you tell me?" Because, of course, Allie, beautiful, fragile Allie, had worn down over the years. She had not been able to take the stresses of everyday life without what she called a little help. Sometimes she went on an alcohol binge. Sometimes she went on a drug binge, sometimes she did both. But between them, Nick and Keith had always managed to get her straightened out, to keep things hushed up. Just like he hoped, no, prayed, they would be able to do this time. When he reached the upscale Washington, D.C. bedroom community of Arlington, it was nearing midnight. His sister lived on a quiet street with big houses and well-kept yards, overhung with 100-year-old oaks. When Allie and Keith had bought the house, they'd planned on filling it with children. The children hadn't happened so far, but Allie, at 41, had not quite given up hope. At that time of night, the whole area should have been quiet and dark. But as soon as he turned into Alley Street, he was struck by the lights, the sounds, the hubbub of activity that he realized as he drove closer was centered around his sister's house. "Oh, Jesus," he breathed, as the lights resolved themselves into the flashing strobes of emergency vehicles, cop cars, and an ambulance, and even a fire truck parked with its wheels on the lawn.